Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway is this weekend. I'm going to be giving my final prediction along with what I think is actually going to happen in this fight. I want to start by debunking a few narratives that I don't really agree with. I've seen a lot of people picking against Charles Oliveira, mainly because of his fight IQ. Obviously, this is a BMF title fight. We've seen him practicing the point down. Some people don't really believe that he's going to grapple, and a lot of people don't trust his fight IQ, especially after his KO loss to Ilia Topuria. Now, yes, obviously, if he does the point down, if he doesn't grapple, he's going to get done just like Justin Gaethje. He's going to get knocked out, not only because of the boxing difference, but just because of the speed. Now, I do think some people are underestimating Oliveira's chin, which we'll get to in a little bit, but with his fight IQ, why I don't think it's really as bad as people say after the Ilia Topuria fight. Now, I get why people say this. He swung in the pocket and he got knocked out in under 3 minutes against Ilia Topuria. But we have to look at the alternatives to his game plan. Yes, he could have been a little bit less reckless and more patient, but I think that just would have delayed the knockout. I still think it would have happened just in the second or third round. Charles Oliveira has never been a guy to really use his reach and fight at range, and even if he did, I think he still would have lost to Ilia, even if it wasn't a knockout. He wasn't only boxing in the pocket. Even when he was throwing his leg kick, Ilia Topuria was constantly jabbing him in his face, which cut him open early on. And if it was something where he didn't shoot a single takedown in that fight, I would be very worried that he would do the same against Max Holloway. But the truth is, he did shoot on Ilia Topuria. He did try to get it to the ground, and he did actually get it to the ground, obviously not really in his favor. And there were some other opportunities where I feel like he could have shot maybe once or twice more before the knockout, but I don't think that he really wanted to gas himself out and shoot 3-4 takedowns in the fight. So while I do think that it wasn't smart to be that aggressive, he did need to be at least a little aggressive against a guy like Ilia Topuria, who's great at pushing people back and getting the knockout, and he needed this to set up the takedown. So while I get the flack and I get why people kind of criticize Charles Oliveira for this, I don't really think it made that much of a difference in that fight. I think he was going to get knocked out by Ilia Topuria regardless. And because of the knockout, I think that his chin has been pretty underrated recently. I think given the power punchers he's gone against, guys like Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, and how aggressive and reckless he is, I don't think his chin is that bad. Obviously, people will say Ilia Topuria, that KO. Everyone gets knocked out against Ilia Topuria. That's not really that shocking. He ate shots, clean shots against Dustin and Justin, and he did get knocked down, but he wasn't really hurt that bad. He was able to recover. And I think Holloway's chin is actually the opposite, where I think it's a little bit overrated. We've seen him get knocked down in his past 3 fights. And while I don't think that Charles Oliveira is going to knock out Max Holloway, the point I'm making is that if Charles Oliveira does knock down, not knock out, just knock down or hurt Max Holloway, he's going to jump on him and he's going to submit him, and the fight's pretty much over. Where I feel like Max Holloway, it's more going to be flash knockdowns because of his speed, not a one-punch KO like the very end of the Gaethje fight, or how Ilia KO'd Charles Oliveira. And I think here, Charles Oliveira is very good at recovering. We don't know if Holloway's going to follow him to the ground, but even if he does, I think that's just going to be dangerous for Holloway. I don't think he's going to TKO him with ground and pound. So while Charles Oliveira is a little chinny and Max Holloway is way more powerful at 155, I don't see Holloway flatlining Charles Oliveira like how he got done against Ilia Topuria. And I think if Max pulls it off, I think a late to mid-round TKO or decision is much more likely. Additionally, why I don't think that Oliveira is going to get the knockout is because if he hurts or wobbles Holloway, I actually think that he's just going to shoot a takedown and try to get him down where he knows he's much safer. Now, my main worries for Charles Oliveira against Max Holloway, for starters, it's not going to go like the Gamrot fight where he's able to walk him down, eat everything that Gamrot is throwing at him. Gamrot isn't bad on the feet, but he just has no power at all. Obviously, he's not the striker as Max Holloway. Additionally, if Charles Oliveira is able to get takedowns every single round, maybe he's not able to get the submission, I still don't know if he's going to win a decision because of damage-based scoring. I could see Oliveira racking up 3 minutes or so of control time in a round, and Max Holloway is able to get up safely to his feet and lands a flash knockdown at the end of the round, and he's able to steal the round. And if he's able to do that in 1 or 2 swing rounds, he's probably going to win by the judges' scorecards, even if he's constantly getting taken down. So I think for a decision, Charles Oliveira would have to take him down and then keep him there until the very end of the round. I don't know how successful he's going to be with his pressure because Max Holloway is so good at countering. He's great great at blitzing and constantly moving. Now, my takeaways from Max Holloway versus Dustin Poirier, the trilogy. Max Holloway's most recent fight, and this may be a hot take, but I actually thought Holloway won that fight 50-45. I feel like the judges were kind of biased because it was Dustin's retirement fight. It was in Louisiana. I think the fourth round was pretty close, but I still think Holloway won that round. And even in the second, yes, he got hurt. Holloway hurt Dustin like once or twice as well in that round, and he was up like 15 significant strikes. So I still don't think that Dustin did enough to win that round. And yeah, Charles Oliveira could get finished, unlike Dustin Poirier, against Max Holloway and have an even worse performance. But I still think that Dustin Poirier is a much easier matchup for Max Holloway. For starters, Dustin Poirier visibly regressed in that fight. He definitely was not in his prime. And even against Makhachev, you could kind of see it. I feel like a lot of people gloss over the fact that Dustin Poirier's striking was not as good as it was in 2020, 2021, even 2019, because his defensive grappling and grappling overall improved so much. Against Makhachev, his grappling had never been better at that point. But I think striking wise, he wasn't as good as he was years before. Dustin Poirier doesn't have the pressure of Charles Oliveira, so it mostly was in the center going tit for tat. And if that's going to happen, Max Holloway is just going to beat you. He beats almost anyone at this. And while Charles Oliveira may get finished because of how aggressive he is, his game plan is going to be much more harder for Max Holloway to fight against than Dustin Poirier. Now, Dustin does have a good chin, so to see Max Holloway knock him down so many times makes me a little bit nervous for Oliveira. Max's counters look great, and even when Dustin was able to pressure, like in the fifth round, every single time Max Holloway countered him with something, and it forced Dustin Poirier to move back and get off the pressure. And this is why Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, needs early takedowns, because rewatching that fight, outside of the last 30 seconds in the second round, the first 10 minutes was all Max Holloway. And especially in the first two rounds, his speed advantage is going to be too much for Charles Oliveira. He's always going to have the speed advantage and always going to be the better striker, similar to the Poirier fight. But you notice in the last three rounds, it was a much more competitive fight when Holloway was moving so much. He was a little bit tired and he wasn't as fast as before, where the difference in speed wasn't as much, where Dustin Poirier was getting rocked with everything Holloway threw at him. So if Charles Oliveira is able to get early takedowns in the first and second round, by the time the third or fourth round comes around, yes, Max Holloway will have the speed advantage, but it won't be too much where he's getting knocked down after every single shot, and Holloway has like 3 knockdowns. Now, how I think Max Holloway will counter Charles Oliveira's pressure, he loves to blitz in when he's getting pressured against the cage. We saw this against Justin Gaethje a bunch, and I think it's gonna be similar to the Makhachev fight, where in the very first minute, Charles Oliveira is pressuring Islam Makhachev, pushing him back, and Makhachev counters by blitzing in with a pretty sloppy combination. But whenever he does this, Charles Oliveira backs up, he gets off the pressure, and they're forced to go back in the center and fight at Makhachev's range. So while I don't think Max Holloway KOs him with one of these shots, it's going to help him reset in the center and fight at his distance. And I think when this happens in the center, they'll have a few exchanges where Max Holloway wins most of them. And if they stay there for too long, similar to the Dustin fight in the first round, he's going to knock him down. I don't think he's going to knock him out, but he's definitely going to hurt him with a straight right or straight left. While Charles can have success in this range, he has a 74-inch reach. He's the longer guy. He has a good jab. He has good teeps. He has great leg kicks, which Max Holloway does not check. He's just clearly going to be outmatched at this range. But realistically, Charles Oliveira, his main path to winning this fight is by the grappling. And I want to talk about Max Holloway's takedown defense and what I think happens when Charles Oliveira does shoot on him. I think Max Holloway's main way of defending the takedowns is by his footwork, his blitzes, his counters, and hurting Charles Oliveira, dropping him to make him not want to move forward and pressure him. Because to be honest, I don't think Max Holloway's takedown defense is going to hold up. Now, I don't think he's going to get done like Justin, where as soon as it hits the mat, he's done, he's tapping out. I don't think he's that bad on the ground, but his actual takedown defense just isn't anything special. And I know it looked good against Volkanovski and Ortega, but in terms of actually getting the fight to the ground, I know people talk about Volk, but I trust Charles Oliveira to get the fight to the ground compared to Volkanovski against Max Holloway. I also think he's going to shoot a lot more compared to those guys. And while speed is definitely going to play a role with Max Holloway coming up a weight class, I think strength is also going to play a role where Charles Oliveira is going to be much bigger and stronger than Max Holloway. And in those clinch exchanges where he gets the body lock, it's going to matter. And I do think Charles Oliveira will be able to get him down, drag him down to the mat, like he was able to do against Michael Chandler, who also has somewhat decent takedown defense, and Gamrot definitely has solid takedown defense, and he got him down nearly on his first attempt and immediately submitted him. So I do think Charles Oliveira will get down Max Holloway multiple times. It's just a matter of if Holloway is able to survive and get up to his feet. And I think the first 2 minutes is really going to decide who wins this fight, even if there's not a finish. Because if Oliveira is able to walk him down and get the body lock and take him down with ease, then he's probably going to win this fight and he's eventually going to get the submission. But if Holloway is able to counter him, blitz him, keep on moving, or even stuff the takedown, which I would be shocked, he's going to be able to fight at his pace and he's going to win the fight. How I think the fight is actually going to go in my prediction, I think in the first round, Oliveira is obviously going to be pressuring him, throwing his teep, throwing his straight shots, his jab, his right hand, pushing him back. I think Max will counter him and constantly move. I think when Max blitzes in, Charles Oliveira is going to retreat. They're going to stay in the center. Charles Oliveira is going to land leg kicks, but Holloway probably will drop him eventually with the straight right hand or the straight left hand. Charles Oliveira will be able to survive this. He's going to hold on. He's going to be able to recover. And I do think that Charles Oliveira will get down Holloway in the first round, but I don't know if he's going to be able to submit him. I think Holloway is solid on the ground, and I could see him getting an early knockdown, but I think Oliveira's takedowns will hold up, and I do think he's going to win this fight. It's so tough to call because I could see Holloway dominating this fight, and I do kind of want to pick Holloway just because Charles Oliveira nowadays, it seems like he's a 500 fighter. He wins one, he loses the other. And Holloway is just so much better on the feet, even though Charles Oliveira can hurt him and he is super good offensively. I just think that his pressure will work. He'll get the takedowns. And if he gets hurt, I don't think that he's going to get KO'd, at least early. I think that's going to be more flash knockdowns. And as the fight goes on, I don't think that Holloway will have as much power and as much speed, where I think Charles Oliveira will be able to take the punches a little bit better. So I have to go with my gut. I just think that Charles Oliveira, I know he's the underdog. There's a chance he doesn't win. I wouldn't be shocked if he gets knocked out. I just think that he's going to get the takedowns. He's going to get the submission eventually after taking damage. And he could even drop him like he dropped Gaethje and like Holloway got dropped by Justin Gaethje. So I am going to be picking Charles Oliveira by submission. Let me know what you disagree with, how you think this fight goes.